Hey, hey, happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Brought to you by thegaminggang.com. If this is your first time joining me, kick back, relax. It's certainly nothing too serious going on here. Certainly not rocket surgery. We're just hanging around talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And tonight, I am going to be reviewing Iberian Gauge from Capstone Games. I'm also going to explain how you play this game as well. But that's a little ways off. We got some tabletop gaming news we're going to take care of first. But today is Monday, November 15th, 2021. This is live stream 716. Once again, as I mentioned, if this is your first time here, very, very casual. We will go through the tabletop gaming news and then get into the review. So if you are stopping by tonight to catch the review, please keep in mind that the tabletop gaming news comes first. If you're watching this after the stream ends, about 30 minutes or more after the stream ends, there will actually be timestamps. You can click on those, jump right to wherever you want to be in the video. So if you don't want to catch the latest in tabletop gaming news, you can simply click on a timestamp and go right to the review. So I have to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the dispatch streams live right here on YouTube, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. I'll also let you know when I upload other standalone videos, which is normally what I do with reviews. Normally, I do reviews as standalones. We do first looks at games here on the Dispatch, but I wanted to change things up. So this week, it's all reviews for the 3 episodes of the show. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, but importantly, this is a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. Also, you have to have been a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours to take part in chat. Another way that I help keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So let's see, who do we have in chat tonight? We have got the Madman. Yes, that's right. The Motor City Madman's first out the gate. It's Mew is with us. It's been a while since we've seen It's Mew. Hunter Perkins is with us, Disavowed 92, and Kevin R. Smith so far. All right, we are off and running. So let's jump right on into the news because slated for a January 2022 release is Familiar Tales from Plaid Hat Games. Here's the dope. Familiar Tales is a cooperative deck-building fantasy adventure for 1 to 4 players. It's an exciting narrative game in which players take on the roles of a wizard's familiars entrusted with saving and raising a displaced princess. They must keep her safe from the evil forces that would see her dead. But when it comes to children, it's not enough to merely survive. The familiars know every choice they make will affect the young one in their care. If they're victorious and the throne is reclaimed, what kind of woman will sit upon it? Players will explore a massive world through the pages of a fantastical storybook filled with branching paths and memorable characters. Fight off enemies and explore the many nooks and crannies of an enchanted world. Experience a professionally narrated, fully scored, decade spanning fantasy epic. Easily downloadable for both Mac and Windows, this browser based app is required to play familiar tales. Think of it as an automated game master and storyteller. The app also features a digital, searchable rulebook. Innovative card play allows players to level up their familiars by building and customizing their skill decks. Players will use their skill cards to perform all manner of exciting actions throughout their campaign. Familiar Tales is for, once again, 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, plays in around 45 minutes per chapter, and will carry an MSRP of $79.95 when it arrives early next year. I do believe that this is going to be featuring a bunch of miniatures too. That is why it's got that $79.95 price tag. I had heard somewhere along the way that there's 20 some miniatures, but the thing is, when they're showing the contents, I don't see that. I don't see the minis. So I don't know if they're additional or what. See, there's one of the miniatures for the fox. Blaze, I think, is the character's name. But I think there's, like I said, I think there's 4 or 5 characters, and then there's supposed to be like minis for the different creatures and stuff. We'll find out. I gotta say though, and you know I talk about this, I am not a big fan of games that require an app to be able to play the game. Simply because 5 years from now, who knows, is that app still going to be supported? Can you still utilize that app? What if they don't update it and your phone, your iPhone or your Android phone gets updated and that app doesn't run? Then can't play the game. So I'm a little taken aback by that. I wish they didn't have it made where you have to use the app. Well has joined us. I believe this is the first time we have seen Well, and they're saying hello from Brazil. Well, hello from the U.S. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. On to the next news piece, because arriving this month is an interesting looking science fiction game from Talsorian Games. Here's the latest on Deep Space D6 Armada. Deep Space D6 Armada is the standalone multiplayer sequel to Deep Space D6. In the far reaches of the galaxy, a local cluster of planets has been overtaken by a hostile regime known as the Federation. Damn you, Picard! And the Federation, I knew it. That mirror universe is real. Players will take command of starships and work together to complete missions while defending the system from enemy fleets. Each player begins the game with their own starship with unique capabilities and a basic crew. As you earn credits from completing missions, you'll be able to upgrade your ship and hire advanced heroic crew members. Your crew are your dice, and players will roll them, then assign them to their ship stations in order to perform actions during combat or to complete missions. Ship-to-ship combat in Armada involves managing your crew and ship stations. As your ship takes damage, your stations become disabled and require repair actions by engineers. Your crew is also susceptible to injury, and you'll take medic actions to revive them. Ships can be customized to your individual playstyle, whether you prefer to deal direct damage or support teammates by disabling enemy shields and stations. Each round consists of the following phases. Planning. Players travel to nearby planets. Players may also repair and upgrade their ships or hire new crew members during this time. Encounter. Players combat enemy fleets or resolve missions together or alone. And then resolution. Event cards and hazard effects are resolved. Enemy reinforcements will also appear at this time. Once players have collected enough data tokens, a final encounter is revealed. If they can defeat this final encounter, the players will win the game. What challenge faces our captains, and who is behind all the terror? Obviously, we already know it's the Federation. Damn you! Yeah, we know. DS-D6 Armada takes the gameplay of Deep Space D6 and enhances it with ship upgrades, dice mitigation, missions, and cooperative gameplay, all while retaining the game's signature minimalist style. DS-D6 Armada is not an expansion and does not require the original Deep Space D6. Deep Space D6 Armada is for, once again, 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 60 to 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives this month. I remember sharing the news piece about Deep Space D6 because I thought, hey, this looks pretty interesting. This looks even more interesting because now it's kind of a narrative story and you and your friends are cooperating together to defeat the Federation. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. And I'm just sharing some of the optional equipment and weapons and things like that that you can actually equip your ships with. I guess you have like a shipboard. This looks really nice. And Tau Leader Games, they're just, a little company. Just a little company to check out. All right. Let's move on to our next news piece because now shipping from GMT Games is a new 18XX game. What a coinkydink, because we're actually reviewing an 18XX game today. It's 1848 Australia. It's the last time I'm going to try to do an Aussie accent for this. Here's the deets. 1848 Australia is a semi-historical railroad game for 3 to 6 people. It's based on the game 1829 by Francis Tresham. Historical constraints have, as far as is possible, been taken into account. In other areas, history will be written anew. 1848 features the inclusion of the Bank of England as a public company that will extend loans and administers railroads that are in receivership, dealing with the different track gauges between states and the GON special train. 1848 has simple mechanics at its base. The yellow, green, brown, and gray tiles are placed on the map to form a network of routes connecting stations together. The trains, train cards, make notional journeys from station to station, thereby earning money. The imaginary travelers pay for their journeys. The more and more important the stations a train visits, the more money it earns for the company and its shareholders. In the game, you and your fellow players will own 6 private companies, shares in 8 public companies, as well as shares in the Bank of England. The public companies belong to their shareholders. The player with the most shares in a company is its director and decides what the company will do. You'll operate your companies, invest in others, buy better trains, and compete for routes. At game end, players compute the value of their shares and add that value to their operating profits to determine their total wealth. The player with the most wealth wins. Just like in real life. Nah, not really. 1848 Australia is for, once again, 3 to 6 players, ages 14 and up. That's my guess. I'm taking a stab. Because off the top of my head, I don't remember what it was. And GMT doesn't usually share the age range. So I'm going to say 14 and up. They might say 12 and up. Because it is true, the 1848 core rules are not very difficult to wrap your head around. But the game does take a while to play. So 1848 Australia will play in around 200 to 240 minutes. Yeah, that's quite a bit of time. It does carry an MSRP of $75. Once again, as I mentioned, it is shipping right now. So keep your eyes peeled if you have a friendly local game store that does carry GMT and you're interested in an 18XX game from GMT, because this is not the first of the 1848 series. This, if I remember right, I think this might be number 3. I think this is the 3rd title, maybe even the 4th title. Let's move on to some role-playing game news, because Worlds Beyond the Infernal Breach is available in print and PDF from Mundos Infinitos. Here's the skinny. Worlds Beyond the Infernal Breach is an industrial infernal RPG about wanderers who roam a desolate planet destroyed by the interests and whims of a few. You will live adventures in a world consumed by decadence and superstition, invaded by hellish forces. The game features a simple rules system based on Apocalypse World. It's full of hellish illustrations. It's got tools to build the world and its background randomly, guaranteeing different experiences each time it's played. There's 9 playbooks to play with different characters, from cyborgs to psychics, with different specializations. Contains chronicles from beyond the infernal breach, an illustrated guide into strange places to give you ideas of potential hells. The 156-page hardcover is available right now at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. Yes, you heard me right. The hardcover is available for $19.99. I think this is digest size, although from the images, there's somebody's hand in there, their fingers. Might not be. So $20 for a 156-page hardcover is pretty affordable, pretty cheap, especially from Drive-Thru RPG, because they just raised the price of their printed materials. Here's something else I should point out. If you're curious about this game, you can get the full PDF absolutely free. At least it is right now. So don't miss out. This looks like it could be interesting, especially if you're a fan of Mürkberg, or as I guess it's okay with Free League Publishing nowadays, calling it Morkborg. I guess so many people were calling it Morkborg. Yep. All right. Hey, you can't beat free. Could be kind of cool. It's, you know, if you like Powered by the Apocalypse games, I like Apocalypse World. I had actually bounced around running Dungeon World, but I don't know, for some reason, to me, and, you know, I'm sure it's just me, I find coming up with the like, if this, then that, or if not this, then this, like, you know, if the players fail their dice rolls, I should say, they don't necessarily fail. But you can create different situations. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I could see, you know, I do that all the time, but not on every roll. Sort of like, wow. That's the only thing that's kind of kept me away from Powered by the Apocalypse games. So let's see, who else do we have in chat? We've got Mr. Eddie T. We also know that Sarah is hanging around, Miss Sarah D. In fact, Mr. Eddie T has pointed out, yes, she's hanging out, watching out there as well. The madman said hello to Sarah. She's out there in the shadows. Yes. So Omenal's with us as well. So nice. Got a good chat operating at the moment. So let's finish up the news. Available in PDF right now from our Talsorian Games is Cyberpunk Interface Red. Come on, you. Come on. There we go. Here's the skinny. Night Cities, voracious chumba. It needs more places, more people, more things. More. More. How do you like me? You know, yeah, I can't really do that song. It's never satisfied, and we know you aren't either. Your campaigns can always use a little something extra to push it right over the edge. That's what Interface Red is all about. In this first volume, you'll find a collection of short articles custom crafted to improve your Cyberpunk Red experience. We featured many of these articles on our website as free DLC for you to download to your data storage device of choice. But this is the first time any of them have been collected into a single volume. Plus, we've thrown in new exclusive articles as well. You asked for more drones, and the Cyberpunk Red crew has delivered. Volume 1 of Interface Red adds the following to your Cyberpunk Red game: Old Guns Never Die, a step-by-step conversion guide for bringing weapons from Cyberpunk 2020 into Cyberpunk Red. Red Chrome Cargo, one of our most popular Scream Sheet adventures. The Single Shot Pack, 10 pre-generated PCs, or NPCs if you need them, and 6 pre-generated net architectures, all to help you start playing faster. Cyber Chairs, new options for mobility. Who needs 2 cyber legs when you can ride around on a stylish mobile platform? Elf Lines Online, not 1 but 2 articles detailing Night City's most popular MMO, Elf Lines Online, along with some of the people who play it. And then All About Drones. Never before seen, All About Drones brings 2 new security drones, the Savannah Eagle and Panther, to Night City. Plus, you'll get 3 new personal drones, none of which need a net architecture to operate. This 64-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $8.50. Should also mention, if you have been on the fence about checking out Cyberpunk Red, DriveThruRPG is in the midst of a Cyberpunk sale. Now, it's not only for the Talsorian Cyberpunk Red, it's all different Cyberpunk games, but it is part of it. And the starter set is really well done. They've got a really nice starter set over there at our Talsorian Games for Cyberpunk Red. That's it for the news tonight. As I had mentioned, that the last 2 news pieces I was talking about is DriveThruRPG, and of course the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, stop by thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banner links, and then that way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep the gaminggang.com around. Flaming Huron's with us as well. Good to see you, Flaming Huron. He's asking, isn't the Cyberpunk sale over? It wasn't as of this morning. But the funny thing is, when I went to go check out DriveThruRPG and that sale came up, I even thought, I was like, hey, I thought this was going to be over by now. So they have ended it. So it might be over now. So I'm only going by what I saw earlier this morning. Okay, so tonight I am going to be diving on in and reviewing Iberian Gauge, which is from Capstone Games. But before I jump into that, I do want to let you know what is on the horizon for this week. So if you follow me on Twitter and if you caught the episode of the Dispatch last week, where I mentioned I'm no longer going to do Kickstarter previews, I have one left to do. So I'm doing it live tomorrow night. Because the Kickstarter actually starts, I think it's tomorrow. So it's from Daily Magic Games. You may have seen when I did sneak peeks at just like unboxing these prototypes. So it's Thrones of Valeria, which is a trick-taking game. I will talk a little bit about this, as well as Dice Kingdoms of Valeria, which is a roll and write game. So the 2 of these, we're going to talk about 2 of these. Kickstarter's asking, Flaming Huron's asking if I'm going to still do Kickstarter news. Yes. Yeah, I mentioned that before. I mentioned it on the show, and I mentioned that on Twitter, too. I'm just not going to do the videos. I'm not going to do any sort of videos because and I'm not going to rehash what I was talking about before too much, but there's so many people out there who they would tell you that, a steaming turd is great if you pay them. And there's far too many of those people out there right now in the gaming industry. So, and I'm not saying everybody doing Kickstarter previews is like that, but I got to tell you, I don't care if people tell you, well, we don't take money for videos. The vast majority of people who are saying that are lying. Okay. Sorry. If I have a publisher tell me what various outlets charge for videos, and then that outlet turns around and says, "Oh no, we don't charge for videos," I'm gonna have to believe the publisher who said them do videos. Let me hear on says, "Yeah, a lot of shills out there." Yes. So I decided, you know what? I'm not gonna do anymore. Just not gonna do anymore. Just like I keep kicking around, I might transition the gaming gang more towards role playing games. And not that I'm going to stop covering board games, but go a little heavier into role playing games. Because, I mean, role playing games are really my first love. So we'll see. Thing is, there are a lot of one of the reasons why I don't do it is because I know there are quite a few people who hang out and chat who are board gamers. They don't care about role playing games. So I would, I'd lose that audience if I just did role playing games. Fleming Aaron said all the people who like war games just died a little inside. See, that's the other thing. Now, well, I'm still tight with GMT and stuff. So just like I was talking about that 1848, we'll be seeing it, I'm sure. That 1848 Australia. So, now says, I'd rather watch real reviews, which is why I try to find people who give them. Sir AT says, good for you, Jeff. I like your integrity. Yeah, it'll cost me a little bit, but, it's not like I'm sitting here getting rich by any stretch of the imagination. So, anyway, so that is going to be tomorrow. And I know I had promised, I didn't promise, I had said that I was going to unbox and take a first look at Absolute War on Wednesday for War Game Wednesday. I am not, because I am going to do a live review. So it's reviews. Well, tomorrow's not really reviews. I don't call them reviews, but I'll tell you what I think of the two games coming from Daily Magic. I'm going to do a live review of Twilight 2000 from Free League Publishing because it's under embargo until the 16th as far as reviews. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I'll shoot a review tomorrow. We'll still look at Absolute War from GMT. So there's that. Because I actually kind of do want to have my review out there on the date it releases and that I've been sitting on for a while. Although I haven't shot it, so I'll have to shoot it tomorrow, probably in the afternoon, once I have all my stuff for the news and that done. So without further ado, I'm going to be reviewing Iberian Gauge, which I swear I am going to be calling it at some point Iberian Rails. I know it. That's what I kept calling it when I did an interview with Capstone Games at Gen Con. I think I called it Iberian Rails like 3 times. And no one corrected me. It's just okay. Anyway, I'm going to be reviewing Iberian Gauge, which is from Capstone Games. It's designed by Tom Russell with artwork provided by Ian O'Toole. The game is for 3 to 5 players, ages 12 and up, plays in around an hour, and it does carry an MSRP of $39.95. So we're going to swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Iberian Gauge. One thing I will mention, if you keep noticing me kind of looking off to the side like this, it's because usually I've got my keyboard like right about here. for me to do my transition from scene to scene. But because this is laid out, I have to move it like way over this side. So I keep having to reaching over to the keyboard, and I keep touching the wrong keys. When I go to transition, I'm like, come on, why isn't it changing? And then I look at it, I'm like, ooh, I'm hitting the wrong key. So there's that. All right. So this is the box for Iberian Gauge. It is very easily portable. This is a fairly light game as well. It's not a super heavy 18xx. But in the game, you are Spanish investors. You're railroad investors, and you are looking to create routes and invest in railroads to connect the cities and towns of the Iberian Peninsula. So we've got Lisbon and Barcelona and Seville and Valencia and so forth. There are 7 major cities on the board. The rest, you'll see these. They call them urban areas, which is, to me, it's a little odd because this is supposed to be the 19th century. It's not really a term that was used a whole lot. I'm kind of surprised it's not just major cities and towns. But regardless, so let's, first of all, I'm going to point out that you have a page of rules. So if you saw me do the unboxing for this, then you know there's only one sheet of rules. But even though there's only one sheet of rules, there is quite a lot of depth to this game. I was very surprised. Of course, this is the 3rd title in the Iron Rails series from Capstone Games. I do believe this originally came out from Winsome Games back in the day. I don't believe there's been really any mechanical changes to the game, just presentation-wise. And I'll be the first to point out, yes, this board is pretty bland. Not super exciting as far as the board here. And but thankfully, we've got money cards. We do not have paper money. Ugh. Dislike paper money a lot in games. So let's tour around. So first off, each player, and this does play 3 to 5 players. Each player is going to get a tile. It's simply in their color, and a dozen investment cubes, which is used for the player to purchase stock in a railroad. So the players themselves do not just run a railroad. I know there are a lot of 18xx games that are like that. Here, the players are investing in different railroads. They might even sabotage railroads by being investors in them. And what they're looking to do is wind up with the most cash, both cash and stock value, by the end of the game. The game runs 10 rounds. There are 4 investment rounds, and there are 6 building rounds. And I'm going to explain how the game plays. Game moves along relatively quickly. One aspect that I do want to point out is that you're going to spend a lot of time making change. And we see all these various different tracks on the board. I would have liked to have seen some tracks that you would actually use to track your, not necessarily just your cash, but each of the railroads is going to have a treasury. And I'll get into that in just a bit as well. Each of the players is going to start off with a tile with those cubes, as well as 40 pisalis. I forget what the term is, what the currency type is. For some reason, I want to say it's like pistolas, something like that. So you're going to have 40. So taking a look here, we've got the railroads, and you're going to randomly just seed these. This is kind of the initiative order as far as when we have build rounds. So each of these represents a railroad. There are 22 of these very cool little wooden trains, little wooden engines that I thought was very, very nice. Then we also have a big engine, which is, it's like a current first player marker. It's, I think it's something like preferred deal. But essentially what will happen is this will move around to different players. It does not just move around in a clockwise position. That's why it's not a first player marker, but it does indicate who the first player is going to be for that round. So we've got the different railroads here. So then here we've got our dividend board. So this is for stock dividends. They will pay out at the end of build turns. We also have stock value. So this is the value of our stocks that run across here. And we have different colored discs representing each of the railroads that we are going to track. So one thing that I want to point out as well is depending on the railroad is going to determine what your dividends are. So they don't all pay the same. So you have to kind of take a look here. It'll show, for an example, the purple and lime green pay 13 per share if they were there on the dividend board. If it's the blue or orange, then it'd be 11. And if it's red, it's 10. You'll also notice that the railroads all have different, and I shouldn't say all, there are different numbers of stock opportunities. So we've got the lime green and the purple only have 4 stock options. We've got 5. We also have 6. So that's one of the reasons why we see the dividend prices are a little bit different. Once again, as I mentioned, this is the Iberian Peninsula that we are building the railroads across. We have a build chart as far as what the costs are. You can also lease railway from another railroad, keeping in mind that the players do not control, in traditional game sense, the railroads. Now, they will do building actions for the railroads, but only if they happen to be shareholders. So we also have information about the terrain. So if it's lighter green, it's easy terrain. If it's dark green, it's more difficult terrain. So hills, probably not necessarily mountains, but more difficult and more expensive to lay track. Then we have the towns, and then we have our major cities. One thing that you'll see too is on the towns and the major cities, you're going to see little icons. So you might see a little arrow up in a kind of a blue box. So for an example, Madrid has 2 of them pointing up. That means whatever railway builds into here, lays rail here, is going to get a bump of 2 up. And then we also have each of the major cities has a stock option price boost as well. There's also a special dividend if any railroad connects to 5 major cities. So Disavow 92 says, this is a great game. The Iron Rail series is really good. It's the first one I had an opportunity to play. So let's give you an idea of what's going on. Also, I should point out that we've got a little cylinder down here that we're going to track our rounds, and it tells us exactly what's going on. Is it a build round? Is it an investment round? What's up? So we're going to start off with investment. Easy peasy. You're going to randomly determine the first player, and that first player is going to decide to buy stock in a company. So what they're doing is they're establishing the railroad. So let's just say I am the blue player, and I say, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a stock. And I should point out, I'm up here. Underneath me are the purple trains. So just, yeah, trying to squeeze them in. So I'm going to say, okay, so I'm buying a stock. So I purchase into the purple railroad. So what I then get to do is I get to establish the initial offering stock price, anywhere from 12 to 36. That's why you'll notice on this track, these are highlighted in green. That's the range that I can set it at. Now, if I set it too high, it's going to be difficult for me to actually purchase more stock in this railroad. If I set it too low, I'm going to have a lot of other people getting stock in the railroad, and I won't be able to kind of have more control than other people. So there's a kind of interesting balancing act as far as when you first establish your railroad. Because the thing is, if you don't have enough investors in the railroad, your stock prices are going to drop. If you don't have people building, connecting to towns and cities with a railroad, that stock price is going to end up dropping. So this 92 says control is an illusion. So as an example here, I'll say I'm going to set that stock price at 20. So I'm going to take the purple disc, put it over here on 20, and then I have to pay, but I'm not paying the bank. I'm actually putting this into the purple railroads treasury. And I'll get into what goes on with the treasury in the build phase. So now what I get to do is I get to take one of the train engine markers and place it into a major city. So I decide, all right, I'm going to go here. And you can stand it up if you want, or you can lay it down for a little cooler, a little more visual pop. So you got to keep in mind that you cannot have a bunch of players occupying the same hexes. So whoever, like for an example, if we build some track out into here, if anybody needed to build into this hex, it would only be one additional railroad, and they have to lease it from us. So they actually have to give us the money that it takes for them to lay the track. So that's what we're going to do there. Bang, we're done. We're good. And I now still have 20 to play with. So let's say the lime green player goes, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm going to purchase stock in that as well. Should also point out that we do put this on the bottom of the dividend board. And then we've got the fuchsia player. They say, okay, so I'm going to start this railroad here. And they say, I'm going to put mine in Barcelona. And what you're going to continue to do, and of course, they have to put money into the treasury. So what you always want to do, you want to leave a little space here. Like I said, I would have rather seen like made this a little bit bigger with a track that maybe you could have 0 to 10 and then 0 to 9. So you could, track like your 10 digits and your single digits, as opposed to constantly making change and paying out, putting money in, taking it out. Although, like I said, at least we've got, money cards. So what you're going to end up with as you go around, everybody can continue investing. You can pass. So when it comes to you, you can pass. And what makes this a little bit different than a lot of other games is you can pass and then get back into the investment later in that round. So just by saying, okay, I pass, I'm out, doesn't necessarily mean you're completely out. First person to pass in a round, doesn't matter if it's investment or building, is going to get this, and they become the first player on the next round. So let's just say we've got 16 for the orange. Let's say we finished like that. Let's say we got 3 players. Wasn't a whole lot of investment going on. Then we go to the build. So Omanel says, oh, with just about said control is an illusion. And Omanel said, that would explain the voices in my head that make me do things. Flaming Hero said, maybe I should, maybe Omanel should just watch my videos as they go to sleep. Control is an illusion. So when you move to a build phase, what you're going to do is you're going to go in order of these cubes of your investors. So as an example here, I'm blue. I'm going to be the person who gets to build track for the purple railroad. So I would sit there and say, okay, I want to make sure to connect to an urban area because any railroad that is established, so these 3 here don't have any cubes. They don't exist right now. There's only these 2. Any existing railroad that does not connect to an urban area or major city during a build round is going to lose value. It's going to lose 2 spots. So what I would do here is I say, okay, so for the purple railroad, I am going to lay track here. Now I'm going to pay for it. So it's easy. So it cost me 4. So this payment goes to the bank. This payment does not go into the treasury. Only when you're purchasing stock does that go into the treasury of the railroad. So now let's say it's the light green, the lime green player. And they say, okay, so I'm next. They get to build. So they're like, okay, I'm going to build into here. Well, now we know we've connected to a town for this round, so we don't have to worry about our stock value dropping. And what this allows us to do is it gets us the ability to boost the dividends on the dividend track. Also notice on the track, we've got little markers that show the stock value. So once you pass, you'll actually move it further up. Once again, what could happen here, let's say this light green player has other stock. Let's say some of these are filled in and they've got stock in other railroads. Maybe they don't want this purple railroad to succeed. So when it was their turn to build, they could say, no, I'm not going to build. And then it would move on to this player with their stock there, which would mean that this railroad, I built track here, but I have not connected to another city. So at the end of the build round, the value of the stock would drop. So the stock can never go below 4 and never above 80. So what you're going to do is you're going to play building rounds and investment rounds. And by the time you get to the end of the 10th round, you're going to total up how much cash you get because you'll get dividends. So as an example, let's say we did connect there. And at the end of the build round, we're going to look, and the purple railroad, for every stock share, that player will get 4, because that's what this says on the chart. So I would have earned 4 back. So essentially, I built that track for free. But as you continue to push these up, you're going to get bigger and bigger dividends. Oh, actually, you know what? I am completely off the wall here. You build track out of the treasury. Sorry about that. You pay for the track out of the treasury, not out of your hand. You use your money here to buy stocks. I don't know what I was thinking. It's still 4. So you'd be making change out of this. I'm zoning. It's been a weird day. It's been a very long day. So that's how you would have laid the stock. So what happens is you could still have the player say, no, I'm not building anything. I'm passing on my build. And the stock would still drop. You can also end up not having money in the treasury in order to build track. It's also possible for you to not have any trains left. So remember, there's 22 of these. So something you have to keep in mind is that if you have stock, let's just say for the heck of it, also in the dividend portion, you'll actually pay dividends to the railroad for every unsold share. So as an example, in my previous example here, where we move this to a 3, everybody who's an investor, me and the lime green player, would get 3 from here. And then the treasury would actually get 6. Well, what could happen is you could actually have a situation where you have a railroad with investors, but you have no trains. And you might, be loaded down with a bunch of money here in the treasury, but you still don't have any trains. You're going to have that penalty when you don't build into a new urban area or major city at the end of a build. So it's important to keep in mind when you get to that last round, if you've heavily invested or you have an interest in a railroad, you want to make sure that there's still trains here that you can still connect into an urban area, because it's super easy right at the end to pretty much trash the value of the stock for one of the railroads. All right, so at the end of 10 rounds, what you're going to do is you're going to total up your money. You're going to total up the value of your stock. Whoever's got the most money is the winner. They are the best investor in the Spanish railroads. It's very possible for there to be ties. There are no tiebreaker rules. So in the case of a tie, you're just going to share the victory with the other player or players. So that, in essence, is how you play Iberian Gauge. Man, I can't believe I was going on. Yeah. And then I buy the track. Like, no, it comes out of the treasury, dummy. I don't know what I was thinking. So let's swing on over to the other camera. I will provide my final thoughts and give Iberian Gauge a review score. I like this game a lot. I thought it was very, very cool. First off, I don't play a lot of 18xx games, especially 18xx games that are really focused on the financial aspects of railroads. I like the, plotting the routes and improving and investing in the rolling stock and things like that. Stock prices and shares and things like that, I don't find all that exciting. But this is light enough, and it's you're not getting into like super economic simulation here. I really like that. The blandness of the game, what can you do, right? I can't sit here and really knock it too much because it's not, visually flashy. Because when I review games, especially when I review like Victory Point games way back in the day, I always point it out. It's the gameplay. That's all I care about. As long as it's not, burning a hole in my eyes, I'm like, oh, I'm blind. As long as it's not that bad, there's not a problem. But as I said, it's not the most exciting looking game that I've run across, even as far as 18XX. Although I will admit, it is a better looking game than Baltimore and Ohio, which is actually a very good 18XX game. Just super ugly. Oh, Helga Ratbone has popped in and said, hello, hello. Welcome aboard. I believe this is the first time Helga has swung into chat with us. Omanel says they'd like to see more pop on the board. Even chess, they're picky about the sculpts. That I could see. I could understand that. As far as gameplay, pretty easy to get a handle on. I will point out that don't play it with people who get upset if you work against them or if you pull the rug out from under them. You could very easily get into, it's not necessarily a take that sort of game, but it can be a little bit. Now, there'll be times when you're going to be cooperating with other shareholders in a railroad to make sure that, you're connecting to the urban areas and things like that. And, you're continually pushing up your dividends as well as the stock value. But keep in mind, if you are a investor in any railroad, you can help sabotage it because you can decide, well, okay, I'm not going to build. I'm going to pass on my build turn. And that could mean the difference between connecting to a new city because the stockholders want expansion. They want growth every build turn. Every build turn, you have to have your, 5 railroads connect to a new urban area for them to continue to be as valuable as they're established. So if you're a stockholder in a railroad that somebody else has 2 or 3 stock cubes in, investor cubes in, you can throw wrenches into their plans. But then again, you can also sit there and cooperate together. So if you don't take that, or like I said, kind of pulling the rug out from under somebody, just cooperate together. You can say, hey, okay, you have to, if you can build, you must build. If there's money in the treasury and it's your turn in the build phase, then you have to build. Easy peasy. Takes that right out of the equation. But personally, I like the fact, I like the competition and sitting there sit there on, this railroad, it's not doing so great. So I'll invest more into it. Now I'm going to control it. I will point out, depending on where you establish your railroad, when you first put the first cube of stockholder interest in there, will determine how successful that railroad's going to be. Because there are areas that you can start off at, they're a little bit tougher for you to connect to a lot of urban areas and major cities as well. All right. Anyway, on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Iberian Gauge a 9 out of 10. It's that good. We really enjoyed playing this. We've played it multiple times. Something else I should mention is that The board does fold up. It's not huge. Just on a regular table, it's fine. You've got plenty of space, but be very, very careful because I've already torn the game board twice and glued it, and all I was doing was unfolding it, and it caught. So be very, very careful because it seems as if it's very easy for you to be able to tear this board and basically having it coming off the cardstock. So wanted to point that out. But yeah, this is a really fun game. We've really enjoyed it. And this is going to be something that is probably going to be, I guess I should start calling these games like trunk games. A game that I have to keep in my car because I don't know when I might be over at, like, say, my mom's house or over at my brother's house, and they're like, "Hey, you got that railroad game?" So there are a few games that are like that. Where it's like, "Hey, do you got that tiny galaxy game with you?" Yes, it's in the glove compartment. So I can certainly see Iberian Gauge becoming a trunk game. So Omanel says their 10-year-old self would use fists to resolve a dispute if someone threw components. I used to be a rules lawyer. I've pointed that out before, and thankfully, that is no longer the case. Once again, Iberian Gauge is from Capstone Games. It's designed by Tom Russell with artwork provided by Ian O'Toole. Games for 3 to 5 players, ages 12 and up. Plays in about an hour. Once you get a good feel for the rules, yeah, you could get 5 players going this. It's about an hour. I would say that's pretty true. It does carry an MSRP of $39.95, so also a nice price. So Omanel says, I hated losing components, especially if it was my game and people threw them. Thankfully, I don't recall ever having anybody throwing components. I remember I would have some players slam stuff down. It was like, yo, Madman says they're very protective of their games and books. So am I. Oh, I used to hate when I'd loan somebody a book and they'd bring it back and it'd be like, what's with the dog-eared pages? Oh, well, I like to mark pages. Really? Go get a bookmark. Like, bet you don't do that to your own books. Okay, so that is it for this time out. Once again, tomorrow, I will be sharing Kickstarter previews of Thrones of Valeria and Dice Kingdoms of Valeria. And these will actually be my final Kickstarter previews. So mark that on down. Also, probably late tomorrow afternoon, my review of Twilight 2000 will be up. And then on Wednesday, we will look at Absolute War from GMT Games. Or not. Because I kind of was like, yeah, let's do the whole week. You know what? I'm just going to do Twilight 2000's review on Wednesday. One day is no big deal. It's not that big a deal. All right. So Madman says their anxiety spikes when people are bending their cards while we play. Someone else says they tell their friends only to open the book 90 degrees, not 180 degrees. Just like if I have a PDF as well as a physical copy of the book, I read the PDF. As Omenal says, thankfully, we have PDFs now. So if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do, ding that bell. I'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also inform you when I upload standalone videos as well. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Monday night. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If I forgot to say hello to somebody in chat while I was doing the review, I apologize. I don't tend to pay as much attention to chat when I'm in the middle of doing a review because it completely throws me off. But thank you very much for watching, keeping me company. Then again, I also know there are a lot of people out there who don't have an opportunity to watch live. Thank you as well. Hey, maybe you're even watching on Memorex. Much appreciated. I will be back tomorrow, once again, as I mentioned, with a couple of Daily Magic Games Kickstarter previews. I'll tell you what I think of them. I just won't give them review scores. It's kind of how I handle that. And of course, until I see you next time, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. See you tomorrow. Oh, you're still here. Well, while you're kicking it, how about subscribing to the Gaming Gang channel? Or seeing the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch? Or finding out what YouTube recommends you check out here at my channel? And of course, don't forget, get your geek on at thegaminggang.com.